Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to hell! Welcome to Friday. Learn some shit, you filthy animals. We're going to be talking about how rates work. What do they do? How do they work? Who do they tickle? Who's pickle? Careful. This is also a Q&A live stream. Ask any questions that you've got in the chat. Make sure you tag me if you want me to read them, though. I will not read your chat comment. I will respect your privacy if you don't type CiottiFPV into your chat comment. If you do type CiottiFPV in your chat comment, I'll read it. And if there's a question, I'll answer it. You can do that with each other. If you type Mothy, M-O-T-H-Y, into your chat comment, for Mothy, his name will light up in orange. This happens every so often with the guy in the chat named Notice. When you guys type a chat message that says, you know, hey guys, did you notice that blah, 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 it lights up in orange like this. And so when Notice is hanging out in the chat, you guys tend to use the word notice a lot more. And then for him, it looks like this. Because you guys are my favorite kind of jerks. Jerks that mess with each other in a way that doesn't make people miserable. Speaking of the chat, Doubles FPV was first, Northern Tier was next, Rays FPV, Bora Bora, Cheetonian, Rockcrawler, Mothy, Troy Prelog, Morton Upshot, Frank Nicholas, Cole Powers, Bob Bruce, Douglas Six, Flycadelic, Islander FPV, Uriel, Hendrix Freakazoid, Willie Summit, CMYK FPV, Steve Sims, Morton Upshot, SSH Drones, Chuck P. What's up, everybody? Huge shout out to CMYK FPV for doing a super quick design for me with my address on it so that I can get, I already put the order in, so that I can get return address labels because a ton of you guys have done Etsy orders and it's just insane that I'm sitting here writing my return address over and over and over and over and over again. And I after the 100th time of doing that, I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. And then I thought to myself, wait a second, 1,000 years ago, I remember that they used to be little tiny rectangular return address stickers that people would put on the letters that they used to send to each other back before civilization, because that's how old I am. And then I typed return address stickers into Google, and it was like, here you go, you idiot. You can get them for like no money. And so I did a little order. It was like $30 for 140 of them, which will last me a long, long time, maybe forever. CMYKFPV tagged me, said howdy gangly gang and CiottiFPV. Steve Sims says, do you think that you could use whoopnut batteries? What the fuck is a whoopnut battery to power an 04 Lite? Whoopnut batteries? Tag me again and tell me what a whoopnut battery is. SSH says, did you get the Mavic back? I did. Yeah, I called a arborist, and they came out for $200, climbed the tree, got it down, away we went. If you get a drone stuck in a tree and you have to leave, mark the tree. Especially if there's like a bunch of trees next to each other, right? Do something to mark that tree, because when you come back the next day, it's going to be hard to figure out which tree it was. So yeah, if you get a rig stuck in a tree and you decide that you need to, like, even if like you have to walk away, if you have to walk away from that tree, you might not be able to find that tree. And if it's like 100 feet up, it could be hard. I spent about a half an hour with this poor bastard, with this poor arborist, trying to figure out which fucking tree the damn thing was in. It had, initially when it crashed into the tree, it was sitting like this, so it was very obvious. You could see the arms and the props and shit. But overnight, it shifted, and it was sitting like this. And when a quad is in a tree like this, and you're looking up, it's damn near invisible. So yeah, mark the tree, make a big pile of leaves, or put an X on it, or do something. Take a picture of it, right? If it's not in the middle of the night like it was for me. So yeah. Islander FPV says, why not daily drive a Miata again? Because I don't have a Miata. It has been stuck at the shop that screwed T-Pain over for the last 5.5 years. So, there's that. I'm caught up on chat. Look at that. Trees aren't real. Birds aren't real. So yeah, we're gonna talk about rates tonight. How to, like, we'll go all the way down the rabbit hole. And we'll talk about how the rates are actually triggering error. Set point is what the PID loop tries to hit all the time. And so, like, believe it or not, when you push the sticks, you're introducing error in a way, and the quad is becoming off set point. And so the PID loop actually, like, reacts to that error and tries to get back on set point. This is why feed forward is really nice. This is one of the big reasons that Betaflight will always be the best sort of firmware. I mean, not always, but certainly is that feed forward pushes ahead of time. And so you don't have to wait for that error to accumulate from you pushing the sticks and it coming off of set point. And so, yeah, we'll dive down the rabbit hole with that. We'll take a look at what center stick sensitivity, expo, and maximum velocity all do. We'll take a look at, like, actual rates versus Betaflight rates and talk about why you want to be on actual rates. And I will even fly around and change rates so that you can see how it affects the way that you fly. You can change the way that your flight footage looks just by changing rates, believe it or not. You have to be kind of extreme with it, but it absolutely does make a difference. If you don't have, like, for example, if you don't have enough expo pushed in, you will never be able to fly truly smooth. And you will always, your flight footage will always be, like, manic in a way. Most people don't use enough expo. I got this idea during the stream Wednesday when we were kind of talking about rates. I did a live stream a long time ago about rates, but it's been a while, and I don't know if actual rates were out back then. I think they might have been, but yeah, some things are changed, and we haven't talked about it in a while, and so yeah, let's revisit it. And I know there's a lot of new people that won't have dug, you know, years in the past to find that rates live stream, and so yeah, let's dive back into it. What do you say? Steve Sims says TinyWhoop sells 48 mAh batteries called whoopnut 1S. Do they really? They would certainly power it initially when they're fully charged. Well, they're sold out, so you can't find out. But if you already have them, they would definitely power it when they were fully charged. The question is, how quick would they sag down to, I want to say 3.7 or 3.8 volts is where the 04 browns out. And so, yeah, I mean, I would think that you'd be able to get 1 or 2 batteries on them, but I have no idea. I have no idea how quick these would hold. I don't know 2 things. I don't know how bad they would sag initially, because they're just a tiny, tiny, tiny little amount of MAH. So, like, they might actually sag so bad, even when they're fully charged, that they come down to 3.8 volts and the damn thing browns out. I have no clue. The next question would be, how long would they actually last, right? Would you get 3 or 4 minutes before they sag down low enough? Or what? These might not have been a joke. So these little tiny lipos are in all kinds of wacky stuff. So I would not be surprised if these were real, but they're just sold out. Hold on. This looks like it might be a joke. Based on 45 reviews, review. It could be a joke. I don't know. But it looks like they're sold out, so you can't get them anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting... Oh, well, no. They're $44. It's definitely a joke. Hold on, let's see if the price changes. One. Okay, now the price comes down. I don't know. It might be a joke. I wouldn't be surprised if they never come back in stock again. That's an interesting question, though. Garrett says, although just released, any initial thoughts on the Beta FPV Meteor 75 Pro 04 and the Pavo Femto 04? Not many thoughts because I don't have them. I try not to talk about stuff that I haven't personally flown and mainly crashed to see how they hold up. In looking at the Pavo Femto, it's a little heavy, but it's meant to be like kind of a cinematic rig, and cinematic rigs are usually a little bit heavier. Meteor 75 Pro 04, adding 8 to 9 grams of dead weight to a 1S TinyWhoop is pretty rough. And so flight performance and runtime are going to suffer quite a bit. If you're going to do an 04 Pro build that is on a 1.6 inch propeller, it should be 2S. And so I understand why they're doing the Meteor 75 Pro 04, but I've gone deep down that rabbit hole with 1S 75mm rigs with walk snail on board and never got a setup that had enough runtime or power. I could get it set up so that it had enough power, but then the runtime sucked. I could get it to have enough runtime, but then the power sucked. There's 1,000 live streams of me going down the rabbit hole. Here's how you search on just someone's channel. You go to the channel, And there's a little tiny magnifying glass right here. You click that, and so if you search 1S 75 walk snail, for example, it'll pull up nothing because I typed 76, not 75. It'll pull up tons and tons and tons of live streams that I've done with all kinds of different frame, motor, prop combos to try to get 75 millimeter walk snail to work. And yeah, the long and short of it is that 2S is only 1 or 2 grams heavier, and you get better runtime and more power. And so why wouldn't you, right? Like, why would you have all of the worse performance and worse runtime? Why do that to yourself? Because you have a bunch of 450 mAh 1S batteries? Okay, but like, sell those and build a 2S one, and it's going to be so much more fun for you to fly, and it's not going to cost you that much extra money either. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. The regular analog Meteor 75 Pro is great. It's arguably the best outdoor 1S TinyWhoop ever made. But with the extra 7, 8, 9 grams of a digital FPV system, it's just not as good. You don't get the power, you don't get the runtime. You can get one or the other, but it's a hell of a sacrifice. So go 2S. Also, by going 2S, you don't have to worry about all this bullshit of like, what amp is your BEC that's on board? Is it going to provide enough amps for the 04 not to brown out and all that nonsense? Just send it straight 2S voltage and you'll be absolutely fine. You'll never worry about it browning out. And in the process of doing that, you'll get better everything. Better flight performance, more power, more runtime, all the things. 2S is the way, for sure. Even on analog, to be honest, even on analog, 75 millimeter, 1.6 inch prop rigs, 75 millimeter motor to motor, 1.6 inch propeller rigs, 2S is a miracle. It is just so much better in every single way. And you will have so much more fun flying one of these 2S outdoors. Look, 1S is for indoor flying. The end. No argument, no question about it. 2S is too heavy for indoor flying. 1S is perfect, and you can get plenty of power from a nice lightweight 65 millimeter motor to motor, 1.2 inch prop TinyWhoop. And so, super simple. 1S is for indoor, 2S is for outdoors. The end. You can apply that same principle to anything. TinyWhoops, toothpicks, cinematic rigs, doesn't matter what it is. Outside, you want more power. And 2S is double the voltage from 1S. So it's like going from 4S to 8S. And most of you will remember when we went from 4S to 6S, there was a massive performance improvement. More power and more runtime. And that's only 50% more voltage. When we double the voltage, it's an even bigger difference. So 2S is the way. Ramdongo says, what's the Pava... What? What's the Pico Pava 2S04 challenge still and hello? I don't know what that means, brother. Todd Halston says, my X12 for my 2S 75mm build subtly only has 3 ESCs. ESC configurator only sees 2, 3, and 4. No smoke burning or anything. Just no power or motor turns. Anything I can do? Thanks. Not really. You can try like reflashing the ESCs in the in ESC configurator, right? If it's on like version 0.19, change it to like 0.18. It's not going to do anything, but I mean, it's worth a quick shot. Yeah, it sounds like either like one of the FETs has died or one of the CPUs that controls that channel has died. But yeah, I mean, on an AIO, like, especially if you're flying it and you smash it into something and then something like this happens, there's just, like, it's very rare that the ones and zeros escape at random. So yeah, you're probably screwed. Sorry, brother. All right, cool. So let's just dive in, yo. Let's dive into rates, and that'll give you. Oh, hey, by the way, No, actually, a couple things. You can buy these little balance lead to BT 3.0 adapters, and then you've got a I don't know if this is male or female, but battery side BT 3.0 that you can then hook up to a bunch of 2S 300 and 350 mAh batteries that exist that will fit in the Mobula 7 V3 frame. The batteries that don't fit very well are these green, we talked about this last stream, but just as a reminder, these green 2S 350 GNBs, technically they do fit, but they are a little bit too wide. They're a little bit too fat. And when they go in here, you got to really push hard on them. And that's going to potentially like warp the frame or put the frame under tension so that it breaks too easily. So don't buy these. Don't buy these green GNB batteries. What you can buy, which I think are made by GNB, are these Emax 2S 350s or GNB 300 2Ss. Either one of these batteries fit perfectly in this frame. Unfortunately, both of these batteries come with pH 2.0 main battery leads, but they also come with balance leads, regular old 2S balance leads on them. And as it turns out, all BT 3.0 really is a fancy lightweight balance lead with bigger pins that'll dump more voltage. And so what you can do is cut the main pH 2.0 lead short, put some shrink wrap on it or some E6000 or liquid electric tape or whatever to make sure that they don't short to each other. One of the things you can do is cut one of them here and cut the other one down a little bit. Don't cut them to be completely even, because then they can touch tips. Cut them like that, and then it'll be much more difficult for them to, touch tips. And then all you got to do is remove the balance lead and direct solder the balance wires into the BT 3.0, and away you'll go. And it's easy because they're in the correct order. Ground is going to be on one side. That's going to be the black wire. That's going to go to the ground on the BT 3.0. It's engraved with a little minus and plus. So the black wire is going to go to the minus. The middle wire is going to go to the silly middle pin. And then the outside red wire is going to go to the positive on the BT 3.0 lead. And that way you don't have to wait for TinyWhoop to get the 300 mAh 2Ss back in. Or you can have a 350 mAh battery, which is pretty cool. And so, yeah, you guys can make your own BT 3.0 300, 350 mAh batteries. These both fit. I don't know where you can get these GNB 300s. Maybe somebody in chat knows, and we'll drop it into the comments. But, yeah. Hopefully TinyWhoop gets them back in stock because it's super nice just to not have to screw around with all this stuff. But I am going to build 3 of these batteries because I have 3 of these little balance lead to BT 3.0 connectors. When you buy these, you get 5 of them. I'm using 2 of them on this silly little balance lead charger that I just had floating around. This is from Emax, and it's just a super janky little USB to balance lead, or I guess this is probably pH 2.0, right? Yeah, this is a little pH 2.0 charger with balance leads as well. And so I've got the little adapters plugged in here, which allows me to charge, which is pretty slick. If you have one of these silly little chargers, yeah, it's a great little double BT 3.0 charger. The other super slick way of charging BT 3.0 leads without having to buy the $30 Wi-Fi charger is to get one of these guys. This is a Beta FPV BT 3.0 cell checker charger all in one. So when you take a BT 3.0 battery and plug it into this thing, the seemingly blank panel here actually has LEDs behind it, and it's a cell checker. And you need a cell checker anyway for BT 3.0, right? So if you're going down the BT 3.0 rabbit hole, you should be buying one of these no matter what. When you plug USB-C into it, it becomes a charger, but it only charges one at a time. But yeah, you should have one of these no matter what. So there you go. A couple different ways for you to charge BT3 batteries without having to pay a bunch of extra money. Although at some point you should get a ViFly because I think it's called the Toothster. Because yeah, ViFly is an awesome company and it's going to drive you absolutely insane charging one battery at a time. So yeah, there you go. Steve Sims says, can you explain how a quad can yaw with no rudder or tail rotor? Yes, centrifugal force. The motors in the corners, like motor 1 and motor 4, for example, or motor 2 and motor 3, they are spinning in the same direction. And so if you accelerate two of those motors and break two of the other motors down, that creates a centrifugal force difference that will rotate the entire quad. It also, like, the propellers are dragging across the air. So, like, that the initial hit of rotation that you get on yaw is literally from the acceleration or deceleration of those motors. But if you continue to yaw, the motors can't continue to accelerate or decelerate, right? Like, two motors are going to decelerate down as low as they can without stalling, and the other two motors are going to accelerate as high as they can, just to full blast. And so the propellers dragging through the air is also, this is why a helicopter has to have a tail boom, right? If you make a helicopter without a tail boom, it'll just, the main canopy will just spin around because the blades on top are dragging, they're pushing against the air, and the canopy is going to rotate the other direction, right? With a quad, we've got four props, two of them going one direction, two of them going the other, and so it negates that rotational force. But we can bring that rotational force back in by making two of the motors more aggressively paddle against the air in one direction and make two of the motors break down and paddle as little as possible against the air in the other direction. So it's that pushing, it's that rotational pushing against the air. This is why if you stab yaw, you get like a very quick rotation of yaw, and then it'll kind of slow down a little bit. Like the initial rotation of yaw is very crisp and very aggressive because you've got that like torque, that initial like acceleration and deceleration. In order for that yaw to continue, the motors are going to have to work a lot harder. So this is also why if you do a really quick little yaw move, the quad won't jump up in the air very much. But if you just go full stick on yaw, it starts increasing and it just flies away because it's having to really crank two of those motors hard to get enough rotational force to keep that thing spinning. Keep it yawing, I should say. And so, yeah, really good question. Sergio says, "What are we doing today?" It's in the stream title. We were talking about rates. Feel says, "I built two analog TinyWhoops. When I fly, sometimes this distorted line comes and goes in my goggles in both quads. I don't know what the issue can be." So if it's happening on both quads, it's got to be your goggles. If you want to check that, link up with another FPV pilot and try their goggles, or just say like, "Hey, can you come for a ride along while I fly?" And they will, if they don't get that same thing as you're getting, then you've absolutely confirmed that it's your goggles. If they do, then both quads have the same problem, which is pretty rare. So yeah, it's probably your goggles. Four Flies says, with those new slotted TinyWhoop 0702 motors, any idea why they make them in clockwise and counterclockwise variants? So that it's easier for people that don't know anything to change motors and just keep flying, right? If you're new to the hobby, or if you're one of these people that just refuses to use Betaflight, having clockwise and counterclockwise motors is super important, because in Betaflight is the only way to reverse the direction of the motors, right? Also, it just saves you time. You know, if you've got a build that you know the directionality of the motors, you can just plug the motors in correctly, and then you don't have to go back into Betaflight. So it is kind of nice. A while ago, I took 5 extra seconds to figure out what the little dot on the Happy Model motors is on the plug. And basically the dot means it's on motor 1 and 4. And so nowadays, when I take one of these TinyWhoops and I swap the motors out, if I take a look at the motors that I'm removing and I see that the dots are in the right places, the fresh motors that I put on, if I put the dot in the same place, I don't have to go into Betaflight, and it saves me, 34 seconds of going and reordering the direction of the motors. Not a big deal, but if you do enough testing, it's something that kind of matters. Steve Sim says, thank you. You're certainly welcome. Sergio says, new 65mm analog to get the most power for someone who cannot get items from WeBleedFPV due to high custom fees. That would be the TinyWhoop 070. Well, I mean, it depends. The best mix of power and efficiency, it's going to be the TinyWhoop 0702 36,000 kV Fireflies. If you don't care about efficiency or runtime and you just want the most raw power, RC and Power 0702 29,000 kV motors. I actually just put a set of those up on my Etsy store, but I don't ship outside of the US anymore because I just recently got burned for $150. Atreides with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, homie. He says, this is probably a stupid thought. Could we do 2 75mm frames, 2 chips bound to the same radio, and make a mini Cinelifter? How would you bind? I don't know if you can do that multi-bind thing. If you could do the multi-bind thing, then you might just be able to put the same binding phrase in. I can actually test that by just taking 2 quads and doing that. Hold on, though. I forgot to put batteries on the charger. I powered on the charger, but I forgot to put batteries on there, and I do want to fly tonight to show you guys the difference that is made when you change rates around. I'm curious now. Hold on. I can just power up 2 of these TinyWhoops, and then because they all have the binding phrase on them now. Let's see. Can't believe I've never done this before. All right, so let's take 2 batteries real quick. If this works, then I think the answer is yes. The problem is going to be you're going to have 2 loops, 2 PID loops that are going to potentially be kind of like fighting each other and like, I don't know, it could be a little bit weird. Ah! There's 2 rigs flying right now. Hold on. Let me see if I can get them to both go straight up so you can see. Wow, one of them has a lot more power than the other. Oh no, one's got tri-blades and one's got bi-blades. There you go. So yeah, if you use the same bind phrase, you can do it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be problems that I'm not thinking of. But same motors, same props, same tune, same everything. What's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. Inevitably, you're going to have issues where like one is pushing harder than the other. I mean, you could totally do it. It's not going to be clean. In order for it to be clean, you got to have one flight controller with 8 motor outputs, which doesn't really exist for TinyWhoops. And so that's going to be one of the main issues, I believe. But you can absolutely do it. Nothing to stop you from doing it. Levser says air mode might be a problem. Man, there's going to be all kinds of weird problems that you're not thinking about. duct tape, tape 2 whoops together, and flip the propellers upside down, get the motors spinning in the wrong direction on the bottom one, and make sure you put the props on upside down, right? And see what it does. I'm super tempted to do that. But not tempted enough to actually do it. Flycadelic says, oh yeah, right. What does both of them bound look like in the goggles? Yeah, right. Yeah, you got to turn the. There you go. So there's one of the things that you wouldn't think about. You got to deactivate the VTX on one of them, because otherwise they're going to be like weirdly stomping on each other. They're going to like have roughly the same view, but they're going to be stomping on each other. Yeah, so you're going to have to figure out how to turn the VTX off on one. And that doesn't just mean like unplugging the antenna, right? That means like literally powering down the VTX. Wait until you've got an AIO that the VTX dies on, and then you've got your perfect second VTX. Thank you for the support, bro. That's a great question. Let us all know if you do it, because we want to know. CMYK says, question from Sergio. Where's it at? Sergio says, I cannot get items from the US. Oh, not only Weebly. Ah, okay. So then, yeah, RCN Power 0702 29,000. That's the only answer for you. All right. Let's dive into rates. Do I have an AIO? Oh, hold on. I do. I have an AIO in the garbage can in the garage that I can just hammer the hell out of and just like leave it plugged in for a long time. Hold on, which will help me to fling flong in the bing bong. Here, watch this for a minute. I'll be right back. La 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 la. Ah, farts. I can't find it. We'll be alright, though. We'll be alright. Fart. How do I not have a blown up AIO sitting around here? I've blown up, you know why? Because I sent a bunch of them to Timmons. Oh, this'll work. Here we go. This'll work. Well, maybe it'll work. Let's see. What version of flight firmware does this have on it? So, rates. Rates are what control how much of a reaction you get out of the quad when you move the sticks. And so there's three different measurements. There's the center of the stick travel, there's the middle of the stick travel, and then there's the end of the stick travel. So we've got maximum rate, or with Betaflight rates, it's called... Oh, that's right. Well, they kind of break it out, but there's the... So yeah, just rate. The rate is what mainly controls the maximum velocity in degrees per second. Betaflight rates are not great. You do not want to be using the old school Betaflight rates. It's the same problem that the KISS rates have, and like the race flight rates. And basically the problem is that all three of these are connected. When you change the center stick sensitivity, as you can see, it affects the maximum velocity, which sucks. Although actually the Expo is broken out. When you change the RC Expo, it doesn't change the maximum velocity, but it does affect the center stick sensitivity. And so, and you can see that here. If you look towards the center, you can see the red line is starting to appear. So as we add more Expo, it actually affects what happens at the center of the stick travel. And that stinks. Betaflight rates, KISS rates, you like every single time you change one of these, it affects the other ones. And then so you got to change one, and then if you want to like, so if you want to adjust the middle of the stick travel by adding Expo, you're going to have to change that, but then you're going to have to go to these other two and change them as well, because as you change Expo, it's going to affect these other two. So just changing what happens in one part of your stick travel is damn near impossible with Betaflight and KISS and race flight, everything other than actual rates. Actual rates were a goddamn miracle when they came out, because this really bugged the shit out of me. And I was actually unable to get enough sensitivity out of the center of the stick without the middle and the end of the stick travel really suffering in Betaflight rates, which is very similar to KISS rates. And so, yeah, if you're on Betaflight rates, get the hell off. Get to actual rates. It's going to make your life so much easier, and you're not going to have this really annoying bleed over between each one of these columns into the other one. The biggest offender with Betaflight rates is the RC rate. The RC rate is the only way to adjust the center stick sensitivity. But it also affects the total degree per second. So basically what happened with me is I wanted the center stick sensitivity to be really, really soft, so that there is not a visible like notch when you go from left to right. Well, in order to do that, I had to run my RC rate down really, really low. And then I had to run my rate super high in order to keep my target of 700 or so degrees per second. The first problem is right here. Ready? I'm at 750 degrees a second. When I click once, it goes all the way down to 667 degrees per second. And that is way too big of a jump. That's ridiculous. 750 is too much. 667 is too low. So there's the first problem. The other problem was this massive knee in the rate profile. Again, the Expo only affects the center of the stick travel. It doesn't affect the center of the stick travel enough. And so it was impossible for me to put enough Expo in to offset the RC rate in a way that I had enough sensitivity in the middle here, but not a shitload of Expo. See what's happening here? We've still got this huge hit in Expo. If we turn this way down, we still have this huge increase here. And this is too much. When you go over to actual rates, you can set your center sensitivity really, really low. Let me get these out of the way to show you. So I've now got my center stick sensitivity extremely soft. So in the middle of the stick travel, when you have the stick dead center, if you drop this center sensitivity down to 10, you can move the stick a bunch dead center and almost nothing happens. So you can get that center of the stick travel absolutely as soft as you want by dumping this center sensitivity all the way down to 10. And then the maximum rate is super easy to set because it's just a number. Whatever you want your maximum rate to be, you dial in the exact number, and that's exactly what it gives you, to the 10th of a degree, but which is fine. You'll never need to go between 690 and 700. And then for your expo, you can just control the middle of the stick travel. You see how it's moving there? It's actually not, it kind of looks like it's affecting, how can I prove this to you? So if I go all the way up on this will make it super drastic, all right? What's the maximum? 2,000, I think? I don't think it'll give me 3,000. Yeah, 2,000 is the maximum, right? So even with the end of the stick travel all the way up at 2,000, look how soft the center of the stick is. Let me get this out of the way. How can I really get this out of the way? All right, cool. There you go. So now you can really see it, right? Look how soft. This is with 0 expo. Look how soft the center of the stick travel is. But then we've got this nice ramp. This would actually, like, maybe almost be flyable, because you would be able to have some actual control over the... I know this is flyable because when I did the meme... This is basically the meme rates. If you guys remember that live stream I did with the meme rates, where I cranked... I wanted to see what 2,000 degrees a second looks like. It's absolutely hysterical. This is basically the meme rate setup, and I was able to fly this because the center stick sensitivity was all the way down at 10. It keeps this middle of the stick travel nice and soft, so you actually have a little bit of control. As soon as I push the stick at all, you know, like all the way up at the top here, this is 2,000, but this is still like 700, which is my usual max stick rate, is like here. So like by the time I got the stick travel like a half the way, it would go to 700 degrees a second, which is almost uncontrollable. I could tame it even more by adding expo, and I think I actually did, right? So like, look at this. Look what you can do. I can actually have a completely flyable rig all the way up until like 3/4 of the way, when it's going to just explode. You know, like this is 1,000 degrees per second. This is like hideously fast already here. And then this is all the way up at 2,000. This is the magic of actual rates. It gives you much more individual control over the center of the stick travel, the middle of the stick travel, and then the end when you get it all the way out into the plastic. And these do interact with each other a little bit, but not nearly as much as with any of the other rate profiles. And like, yeah, actual rates are just absolute magic. They really allow you to dial this in perfectly for you, exactly the way that you want it. Do you want a completely linear stick travel? You can do that. Do you want something that's absolutely insane and it's super, super, super soft in the middle, but then it accelerates like crazy? You can do that. Do you want something in between where you can add some expo to make it a little bit more flyable in the middle here? You can do that as well. It really is incredible how much better actual rates are than all of the other rate profiles. And I mean, it makes sense, right? All of the other rate profiles are like 10, 11, 12 years old. The old Betaflight setup, KISS, Raceflight, these are all 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old rate profiles. Actual rates were released like maybe 4 years ago. And so, of course, they're going to be better. And they were, you know, they were created by Betaflight, the largest team of developers, by like orders of magnitude, right? Like all these other rate profiles are designed by like one guy or like 2 guys, maybe 3 guys. Betaflight has had 20, 30, 40 devs working on it for longer than these other companies have even existed. And so, of course, it's going to be better, right? Of course, their newer rate type is going to stomp all the other ones. And it really does. So that's the magic of actual rates. If you're still on Betaflight rates, somebody says, what is quick rates? I actually don't know, but we can take a quick look at it. All right. So, I mean, it's using RC rate. Oh, interesting. So it's actually kind of similar to actual rates. As I move the RC rate up, it's not affecting the maximum rate. So that's pretty cool. So it looks like it's, yeah, so they've decoupled. That's huge. They've decoupled the RC rate from the maximum rate, which was that's the main problem with all of the other rate profiles, is that these two are coupled together, which is just stupid. So the quick rates are probably pretty similar to actual rates. You know what I'll bet quick rates are? I'll bet you it's actual rates, but it's using the same values as old school Betaflight rates. So if you're, do me a favor, I know at least one of you out there is still on the Betaflight rates. Do me a favor. Before you go to actual rates, go to quick rates and put your same exact Betaflight rates in here and fly it and tell me how it feels. Leave that in the comments, or if there's somebody that's in the chat right now, do it. And tell us in the chat. Make sure you tag me so I'll see your comment. Yeah, drop your Betaflight rates in here because it's the same thing. It's RC rate, max rate, and expo. Drop them in, and yeah, let me know if it feels different. I'll bet you it's doing. They've done the math so that you can just drop your Betaflight rates into here, and it'll give you the main advantage of actual rates, which is to decouple these two, but without having to. When you go to actual rates, the center sensitivity, you can't just drop your RC rate in there. It's a completely different measurement. So one of the reasons why a lot of people don't go from Betaflight rates to actual rates is they don't want to do that work. They don't want to come in here and figure out what their center sensitivity is. I got news for you. If you're still flying Betaflight rates, you have not adjusted your rates in way too long, and you deserve it to yourself to swap over to actual rates and take another look at your rates. And yeah, because once you've flown on the same rates for a long time, your flying is going to change a little bit. And every once in a while, you want to revisit your rates to make sure that your flying style and the way that you want your footage to look has not changed enough that you should be adjusting your rates. Typically, what this is that the more you fly, the better you get. And believe it or not, the lower you want your rates to be. As you fly more and more, you want your footage to look better. You gain the ability to have your footage look better. And so you don't have to do so many rotations and so much movement to hide the fact that you can't just chill out and relax. And so most people, as they mature in FPV, their flying will become a lot smoother and a lot less chaotic. And lower rates help you with that even more. And if you want to produce beautiful flight footage that really, really, really looks like you're a super confident pilot that can like chill out and provide like some beautiful scenery, but then have like a nice big explosion of action, low rates will do that. Your maximum rate, your maximum velocity, that can still be up at like 650, 700, even 800, but you can chill out the center of your stick travel so that you can actually calm the hell down and let people enjoy the scenery rather than just having people go, oh my God, what is happening? You're just constantly blasting back and forth, right? And it'll allow you to have a rate profile that has the best of both worlds. Betaflight rates, KISS rates, all of these other rate profiles, they're really good at like having your rates be nutty. If you want the best of both worlds, though, actual rates, and it looks like quick rates are also going to be a good way to do that. But move to actual rates because center sensitivity makes an awful lot of sense. It's how sensitive the center of the stick travel is. Max rate makes an awful lot of sense. The maximum velocity that it's going to rotate when you're maxed out. Expo doesn't necessarily make sense, but we've talked about the middle of the stick travel. We've talked about the end of the stick travel. So obviously Expo is going to be the, we talked about the center. We talked about the end. Expo is obviously going to be in the middle. The middle of the yeah, there you go. So that is how, that's the first thing that you want to do. If you're still on old school Betaflight rates, you owe it to yourself to get off of there, and you owe it to yourself to revisit your rates and try to slow your rates down. The more you can slow your rates down, the more you can move the sticks, and the smoother all of your flight footage is going to be. We don't all have like completely non-jittery fingers. And so like what I think you'll find is that if you point a camera at your sticks, most people spend most of the time dead center. And so if you're spending like 80-90% of your time in here, what the hell are you doing? Set it up so that you can spend a bunch of your time in here. Use the stick travel. To me, what I want is to have, like, I want to use all of the stick travel all of the time. I want to be in here, and then out there, and then here again, almost all the way out, not quite all the way, almost all the way, right? If you're doing all your work in here, you're making it way more difficult for yourself. And your flight footage is going to show that. Like, it's very obvious. So use the stick travel. Use it all. Don't do everything in here. This is impossible. You don't have enough sensitivity in your fingers to do this all in this tiny little bit of space. Fuck that. Save this for pinching them nips, bros. We're going to talk more about it, but let me hit the chat for a second. Driftaholic says, I'm going to Japan. The limit is 100 grams. I want to build an 04 rig specifically for that trip. What would you build? Man, I have no idea. What's a 100 gram all up weight? I mean, this is an analog rig, but whatever. I gotta at least get some kind of a baseline. Analog 2S75 is 40 grams. So you can easily do an 04 75 mil 2S rig. You could almost certainly you can do like a 2 or maybe even a 3S 2-inch TinyWhoop. And then it's something super safe. And I mean, it's going to really depend on, like, what do you want to do? Do you want to just dive buildings, or do you want to fly around people? Or do you want to do both? I would maybe do like what I would do is an 04 75 millimeter 2S rig, because that's something that you're going to fly here and you're going to fly there. You know, it's something you're going to absolutely love flying out front and behind your house. And then you can bring it there with you. You're going to be way under the weight limit, but like nobody's going to give you any shit for flying something like this around, right? If you do like a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch rig, it looks a lot less like a little kid's toy. And so, you know, from what I've heard in Asia, the drone laws are much more, I mean, they're obviously much more aggressive, but I have heard that people are much shittier about drones flying around. And so I would stay super safe, and I would build something that is not just for the trip. And yeah, that would be a 2S 75 mil, but that's just me. That's just me, right? Like I try to save money absolutely everywhere that I possibly can. Building a specific rig for a specific trip is just not realistic for my budget. Money, no object. Yeah, maybe max it out and build the biggest thing that you possibly can to carry the biggest battery and have the most runtime, which is going to be either a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch rig. I don't really dive much into that world though, so I'm not a great person to ask, unfortunately. But there we go. That's what I can tell you. Sorry, I don't have a specific answer for you, but it's the best I can do before I start kind of talking out of my ass, because yeah, I don't know stuff that is around that 100 gram all up weight mark. Sean Glyph says, how do I schedule build time with you? I've got a large load of new drone inventory to put to use, and I'm a novice builder. Thank you for the opportunity to shill, my friend. Over on... Hold on, let me unplug this. Over on CiottiFPV.com is everything. Stream schedule here. Patreon helps me the most. Join my Patreon for $3 whole a month. That's only 10 cents a day or 7.5 cents per hour of live streaming content. You can't tell me that the last hour was not worth 7.5 cents. Come on now. Help me out. Etsy has a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And thank you to everyone who's been doing Etsy orders. I'm super backed up, but I'm trying my best to get them out. On Etsy, if you're buying stuff, do me a favor and buy a sticker as well. Show your love. Buy a sticker, stick it on something, take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, tag me, and I'll put you on my Instagram, and then people will find you that from this community and follow you, and then you'll make more friends and you'll be a happier human being. This is a service that I offer, you know? I make your lives better in so many different ways. You gotta help me help you. Fiverr is where you schedule time with me, or you can just message me. All my contact info is up here, email, Instagram, whatever. You can certainly just message me if you want the protection that Fiverr orders, right? Like if I bail on you, they will refund you or whatever. You know, if I bail on you, you just come to the live streams and tell everybody what an asshole I am, and then it's not worth it. So I don't bail on people because of that. But if you want to, you know, the protection that Fiverr offers, here you go. Fiverr's a way to do that. They don't take a huge percent, but they do take a little bit of a percentage there. So I would obviously prefer for you just to message me somewhere from up here, and we'll schedule it out and meet up, and yeah, I can help you. Teespring has some fun shirts and other random apparel. PayPal if you want to support me directly, but you know that your super chat is going to get eaten, 30% of it, by Google. And then look at all these affiliate links, my friends. Change your bookmarks to someone's affiliate links. They don't have to be mine, but help us keep making content for you to watch for free on YouTube by using our affiliate links. If you don't use bookmarks and you just like type AMA for Amazon into your URL bar, remove your current suggestion for Amazon and click my Amazon affiliate link a few times. That'll tell your browser like, yo, when I type AMA, I actually want to go to this weird guy's affiliate link. Do one per live stream. Do HD0 tonight. Change your HD0 automatic suggestion to my affiliate link. Just hit it a couple times. Cool? That's how you support me, friends. I'm completely crowdfunded. This way when I review stuff, I don't give a rat's ass if they send it to me for free or not. I say it's garbage if it's garbage. I say it's great if it's great. And that way you guys know what to buy and what not to buy. Rather than, you know, just buying whatever stuff one company sends to your favorite reviewer over and over and over again, right? I'm not relying on anyone to send me stuff. Anybody that wants to send me stuff, I tell them very, very early on. It's a completely honest review. If you send me something that's not good, it's going to get railed. And, you know, if that's not okay, it's been nice knowing you. It's been nice talking to you. But that's just the way that it works. When companies actually do send me stuff, it means a lot. It means they're pretty confident about their product. It also means that they want that feedback. So when you hear me say, thanks to so-and-so for sending me this, that's a big deal. Because they know this going in. You know, I do not hide that. And so any companies that send me stuff, to me as well, it means a lot. It means that they want that feedback. They want their products to improve. And that's huge. You know, it's hard to make this stuff please everyone. And I'm incredibly picky. And so, yeah, the companies that put their money where their mouth is, it's pretty impressive to me. So, there you go. Steve Sim says, so you don't do anything in the transmitter, just set up basic quad and do everything in Betaflight. Yep. Yeah, you can do all kinds of shit in the transmitter in terms of rates. I don't necessarily recommend it because then it's like, well, where do, you know, if okay, you get it dialed in perfectly today, 6 months from now, if you decide you want to change it, it's like, well, where do I change it? In the controller? Do I change it in Betaflight? Like, the only real reason, as far as I'm concerned, to change your rate output in the transmitter, and this is, I actually did this for a while before actual rates, is if you can't get your rates where you want them to. Back in the old days of Betaflight rates, that was the deal, but the rates in the transmitter are actually very similar to those old school Betaflight rates. But yeah, now actual rates will allow you to do anything that you want. And so there's really no reason that I've ever seen to do anything with that output in the transmitter. Just have the transmitter have be a perfectly 45-degree line, and it's just 1-to-1. Just have it output 1-to-1, and then handle it all on Betaflight, and you'll make your life so much easier. God forbid down the road, right? You forget that you did any of that in the transmitter, and you're in Betaflight trying to get it set, and you can't get it where you want, and it makes no sense. Well, it's because you've done twice as much work. You've done everything in the transmitter. Crom says, low center rates are absolutely flyable. They're my rates, lower max, but 10 center, 0 expo is what I ended up on. I ran 10 center. When actual rates first came out, I was so excited that I dropped that center stick sensitivity all the way down to 10. And I was like, oh, it's so good. Just having like nothing in the center of the stick travel. Eventually, I realized it was a little bit too soft, and I bumped that center from 10 up to 40, which is not much of a change, but it's definitely a noticeable change. So any of you that did that with me, like dump that center all the way down, try bumping it up just a little bit. I moved it up, and then I got it up to like 70, and it was a little bit too much, and then I backed it off a little bit, and I settled on about 40. That's kind of perfect for me. And again, the thought process was, and what I wanted was for the flight footage, when I cross the center point, when I cross over this center point, and the one set of springs unloads, and actually it's one single spring that goes to 0, and then so the spring is under tension, less tension, less tension, less tension, minimum tension, and then more tension, more tension, more tension, maximum tension. There's one single spring that like loads and then unloads. And like, I tried everything, man. I tried reducing the spring sensitivity down so much that at this center point, there was no notch that I could feel with my fingers. The problem is that the spring is now so loose that it just, everything feels like shit. This is one of the arguments that Futaba users used to have, is that their spring tension was much better. I didn't necessarily agree with that after having used a Futaba radio, but whatever. The center stick sensitivity is the actual solution to that, because you want there to be some feeling when you cross this center point, so that you're going from left to right. But I don't necessarily want the flight footage to look like that. Without the center stick sensitivity really low, when it travels when it changes rotation, you want to be able to slow down and softly go the other direction. And I could never get it to be soft. It would always be like a visible notch, like as if it's a robot flying. Once you can get it to the point where the center is so soft that you can imperceptibly go change one direction to the next, to me it just looks much more natural. I don't know. It just looks way more professional. It looks way better. Looks way more like a gimbal almost, right? DJI rigs have a whole bunch of expo like baked into them. It's why they look so cinematic. And yeah, really low center stick sensitivity is one of the best ways that I've found to kind of do that. But yeah, having it all the way down on 10, it was a bit too aggressive, and it was a bit too much delay at that center point. So I just kicked it up a little bit, and that gave me like the perfect little mix. Ramdago says, am I still on 4.5? Actual rates came out in Betaflight 4.2, I want to say. So 4.2, 3, 4, 5, you're going to have actual rates, and they haven't changed anything in there. So you guys will be good. Drifterholic says, easy way to skip the work CiottiFPV is talking about. Are you referring to the quick rates? I assume that you're referring to the quick rates. Somebody confirm that for me if you don't mind. Albin Hawk actually says, my gimbals are twitching when I use them, both in sim and in real life. I checked and there are no damaged wires inside. Is an easy fix, or do I have to get new gimbals? I have the Emax E8 radio. Yeah, you got to get new gimbals. If they're only twitching at dead center, technically in the receiver tab you can add deadband. but every gimbal that I've ever had that's twitched, it twitches all over the place, and you just need, yeah, you got to replace the gimbals. Maybe just replace the whole radio. I think that's like one of those super beginner radios. It might be time to get a fancier radio. I'm also willing to bet that you can't just replace the gimbals on that radio. Maybe you can, but the super inexpensive radios, a lot of times you can't replace the gimbals, and that sucks because gimbals are going to wear out eventually. Springs are going to break. Even Hall sensor gimbals can wear out and start twitching. I just recently had that happen. So yeah, maybe look at getting a new, an entire new transmitter. Yeah, see, $56. I don't know. It's up to you. If you love it and it fits your hands perfectly, and you can get replacement gimbals, maybe stick with it. But like, you can get a Boxer for not much more money. All right. Well, maybe it is a bunch more money. You do you, my friend. No, look, you can get like a Radio Master Pocket for like $65. This is almost certainly going to be a better transmitter. You'll probably spend $65 on 2 replacement gimbals for that transmitter. So yeah, I would, if you want to keep the budget really low, I would maybe look at this. But yeah, treat yourself. Get yourself a nice transmitter that you can replace parts on and is a little bit bigger for your hands, and that's going to be my recommendation. CiottiFPV says, I gotta find CMYK's comment again because YouTube scrolled me to the bottom for absolutely no reason. I found gimbal size also contributes switching back and forth between the Pocket and the Boxer. Yeah, the length of the stick ends. So certain gimbals will have very short sticks coming out of them, and then it's hard to have your stick ends be like long enough. You up to a certain point, you want your stick ends to be as long as possible, because the longer they are, the more resolution you're going to get, the more distance the end of the stick end is going to travel. You can adjust that a little bit by just like unscrewing your stick ends to make them longer. There is a point where it's going to get like too long, and then it's going to be like coming up near switches, and then like the back of your finger is going to be hitting like knobs and switches and shit. So there are limits. But yeah, for the most part, you want your stick ends to be as far up as possible, because that's literally going to change the amount of distance, right? If you think of like my entire finger as the stick end, if like this knuckle here was the actual stick end, look at the distance that travels, right? Versus the little ass amount of distance that this travels. And yeah, certain gimbals make that more difficult, easier or harder. And so it does matter from one transmitter to the next. That does kind of make a difference. The QX7 is my favorite of all time. It's just right. It's not too long. It's not too short. The gimbals are set down far enough. For my hands, I can just barely get to the full travel of this, which is what I want. You know, that's maximum resolution, where like at your max stretch, and I could probably stretch a little bit more, but like close to your max stretch, you're in all 4 corners. Not that you ever really go all the way up into the corners, but every once in a while you will. Somebody asked for a poll of pinch versus thumbs. That's a great poll. Pinch versus thumb. Anybody just listening, you're not going to get the joke. Oh, I was such a fucking child. Okay. I gotta scroll back up. YouTube did the thing again. Where the hell was I? Oh my god, I'm super behind in chat. Stop asking good questions. Louis says, analog is killing me. I can't get the VTX table to work for the life of me. Rush Tiny Tank. I've used the one from Rush. I've used the Betaflight preset, the 48 channel, the 37 channel. I have no idea. Certain Rush VTXs have a problem with pit mode. Wow. When you search for Rush VTX, it comes up right here. Well, that's not. Here it is. So in you have to go into the on-screen display, roll forward. Yaw left, roll for pitch forward, and then you got to go into features and VTX, and then next for this obscure, weird little SA config menu, and then the OP model. You have to set it to free instead of race. And that will probably fix your problem. This is an issue only with Rush, and it's absolutely maddening. But yeah, there you go. I'm glad that they have that. You used to have to scroll down through every single post in their page until you got to like 3 years ago. But yeah, that's actually really, really nice that the highest up post that comes in Facebook is that. It's one of the biggest. It kind of is the biggest problem with Rush VTXs. Feel free to message them and be like, "What the hell? Fix this for me, you donkeys!" Especially if that doesn't work. Here's a link to that Facebook post in the chat. Hopefully that fixes your problem. That is an old school problem with Rush VTXs. I think it's only the Tiny Tank, but don't quote me on that. Cheetonian says, we got that. Sam says, when soldering the battery leads to my flight controller, when you tin the battery flight controller holes, do you completely infill the holes with solder? I don't. The best way to do it is to tin the holes in the AIO, and then use solder braid to remove a bunch of that and to empty the hole back out, and then feed the very lightly tinned battery lead into that hole so that you can make sure that you get it all the way through there and get the insulation up against the bottom of the AIO, and then put it in something like the OmniFixo so that it's held there, and then solder in your offhand, soldering iron in your strong hand, heat the joint up, add a little bit of extra solder, and that's going to give you the best possible joint. What I'll sometimes do is not tin the wire to make sure that it's nice and small, run it through there, and just get a bunch of heat into the joint and just add a bunch of solder in there. That works really well. You can also just take the bare stripped wire and the no solder hole and mate them together, and then just take like an extra. Just make sure you get the joint hot enough. You want to make sure that the wire gets hot enough and that the through hole gets hot enough so that when you add the solder, it flows between the whole thing. But yeah, there you go. There's a couple different ways to do it. If I'm super lazy and the hole is filled up with solder, if you orient the board just right, you can heat up the back of the top of the through hole, and then look as you push the wire into the bottom so that you can get it perfectly lined up. The problem with doing that is if one little strand of wire, when you're pushing it in there, breaks away, it can bridge to something else and you can blow your shit up. So yeah, a couple different ways of doing it. Articat says, happy freaking Friday, lads. Northern Tier says, the nips are fine. It's just getting her to flip and roll faster. Driftaholic says, culture of respect over there, so I'm guessing I want something tiny versus using all of the 100 grams. Looking forward to your 75mm 04 build. Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly, is that, like, stay as incognito as you possibly can. It's just not worth getting the attention, you know, to have something that flies a little bit better. And plus, like, you know, a 75mm 2S build with 04, you're going to be able to do all kinds of cool shit with that. You're going to be able to go to the mall and fly it in fucking Lowe's, Costco, you know what I mean? Like, keeping it super lightweight, as lightweight as you possibly can in order to get good flight performance, which is what 2S 75mm exactly is. That is a build that you can fly in the maximum possible number of places, right? Without getting any negative attention or any attention at all. To me, I want no attention. I want no one to know that I'm flying. As soon as people know that I'm flying, it's fucking annoying. How fast does it go? How high does it go? How do I build one for myself? Like, no. I don't want that attention. Some people do. Some people love that attention. I'm not one of them. So, yeah. But regardless, in terms of, like, not attracting a security guard that tells you to go away, right, as lightweight as you can. Level 1 drone says I've been flying with a maximum rate of 1,000 to 1,200, but I see mostly 670 to 800, which feels slow to me. Can you demonstrate why 800 is preferable? So I fly 700. Basically, the lower your maximum rate is, the easier it is for people to watch your flight footage. You know, when I started flying professionally, I started flying and providing footage to people who don't fly FPV. And when you put flight footage in front of someone that doesn't fly FPV, and it's 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100 degrees per second, you can literally watch them as they're watching the footage go. And, like, if you want to get paid, you want to make the people who you're providing footage to go like that as infrequently as possible. And just in general, like, you know, just making footage for FPV people, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I want. I want more people to be able to enjoy this art that I'm creating. And yeah, 11 billion degrees per second is a good way to turn people off to that, unfortunately. We are the only ones that are silly enough to drill this ridiculous flight footage into our brains so much that when it rotates at that kind of speed, we don't vomit. And so, yeah. Also, you want to decouple how something feels to you with what flight footage looks like after the fact. I don't care how good or bad my rates feel to me. I care about what the footage looks like afterwards. That's just me. That does not have to be you. But try to decouple that if you care about it, right? If you care about the way that your flight footage looks, you really do need to separate those two things, because rates that feel good might not necessarily look good at all. And so try to decouple those two things in your mind if you care about that. If you care about your flight footage looking good or looking a certain way, throw away what it feels like and just go by what you can do with the rates to improve it. If you've been flying a while, I should really specify that. If you've been flying for long enough that you're, like, somewhat decent, then you can do that. If you're brand new, that might not make sense because you're gonna improve. And so, yeah, using rates to adjust the way that your footage looks is really something that you should only do once you've gotten good enough. Just once you've gotten good enough. For a long time, you can adjust your flying and you can put the time in to make your flight footage look better. And that should be like, you should prioritize that. For many, many, many years and many thousands of batteries, your flying should be what should be the main thing that makes the flight footage look the way that it looks. But if you're at 1200 degrees a second and you're flying a CiottiWhoop trying to make footage for the general population, you're doing it wrong. And there's just no world where basically what's going to happen is your rates are holding you back. Your rates are doing you a disservice. Nobody wants to see 1200 degrees a second. If they want that much rotation, they're going to do it with a transition. And they're only ever going to use that as a transition. And like the value of you doing a flip or a roll at the exact same moment that editor was going to put a transition in there is pretty much nil. So let them do that, right? Like, you're never going to hit it perfectly. You're never going to do that flip or roll in the exact same spot that hits with the music or the theme or the feeling that editor is going for. But also, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't look any difference from them doing a spin transition if that's what they want. They can control that after the fact. They can control the speed to get it exactly where they want it. They can put the rotational point wherever they want it. There's no value in you trying to do that. And realistically, that's the only possible value of having a rotational rate that fast and or doing a flip or a roll at all, right? Like once you start flying cinematic, you completely stop doing flips or rolls because nobody wants it. Nobody wants to see that. It just makes people go, ugh. And so, yeah, there you go. That's the best description I can give you. Ramdonko says, could you be the man to build the lightest 04 2S? Check 1, check 2. Maybe for like 10 minutes, and then somebody else that doesn't fly or doesn't crash will build one with holes drilled in it, and yeah, it'll be the lightest. But my 2S 75mm 04 build will be extremely lightweight. But I mean, I'll bet you there's already people doing. I know for a fact that there's already people doing them in this frame with a semi-lightweight AIO, with a lightweight canopy, probably 1002s, and so yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Maybe I'll still do a thumbnail and say the lightest 04 rig ever, and then I'll immediately come on the stream and say, just kidding. I got you to click though. You dick. I should probably not insult the audience that early in the live stream. I like to save that for like an hour in. Uriel says, what do you think about longer sticks? 2 thumbs up from me. Sean Glyph says, do you think AIO 5 is worth... What? Do you think AIO 5 is worth at all now post 04 Lite? I have HD0 goggles. Oh! I was thinking AOS 5, the frame, not the AIO 5 AIO. I have HD0 goggles and now goggles 3, but I want to love HD0. I have a super hard time with. I've done a number of live streams about the AIO 5, so you can watch those to really get my full thoughts, but the video quality is not good enough for like any kind of cinematic work. The range is not really good enough for flying outside. It's heavier than analog, so the flight performance isn't as good, or the efficiency runtime isn't as good. Power to weight ratio isn't as good. The reason for the AIO 5 is that you don't have analog goggles. You went all in on HD0 and it flies very decent for what it is. It's not the best at any one thing, but if you're all the way in on HD0, it's awesome. And it's absolutely fantastic. If you have analog goggles, I don't really see a point. I don't know of any TinyWhoop racers that have stayed with HD0 because of the increase in weight. But if you like for the racers that are all in on HD0, it's great. For me, I would pay $100 for a receiver module and the extra $50 for the little bay and run analog. But that's just me. No right answers, no wrong answers. That's kind of where I'm at with the AIO 5. I love that it exists. And I, like you, I want to love it. But when I take, you know, the money that I've spent on it and the time that I've spent on it out of the equation, I end up not loving it. I love that those guys exist, though, and I hope people keep buying it and they keep making stuff because the technology is incredible. But analog is lighter, and with a TinyWhoop, that makes a huge difference. And that's, you know, I don't race. If I raced, I would probably like HD0 a lot more. And so, yeah, it's just not sort of the product for me, from what I can figure out. Mark G says, there's rumors that they will increase the 04 light field of view in a firmware update. Do you think that's possible? If they're cropping in on the sensor, it's absolutely possible. I don't know why the hell they would be cropping in on the sensor, though. That's super weird. That would be great. I would love that. But it shouldn't be possible. There's no real reason to crop in on a sensor unless you're going to do some kind of stabilization, but why would you do stabilization all the time? So that seems super weird, but that would be great if that were the truth, and they were for some reason cropping in on the sensor, and they could fix that in a firmware update. Interesting. Levster says, is it better to fix the stick ends in Betaflight CLI or do it in the transmitter? What's that mean? I'm not aware of any fixes to stick ends in the Betaflight CLI. Tag me again and tell me more. I'm totally confused by that. Fly High is in the house. What's up, homie? Oh, good call. He says recalibrate before you give up on the gimbals. Very true. Very, very true. Yeah, run the calibration in the transmitter. Craig Meyer says, what length are your micro V antennas? 5 or 6 or 7? They're in between. They are, well, they're actually shorter. What is it, 46, I think? I believe it's 46 millimeters. I'm pretty sure it's 46 millimeters. They're a little bit shorter than 50. 50 is the, 50 millimeters is the shortest ORT micro V that they make. And then I had them do them a little bit shorter. And then I had them extend the shrink wrap a little bit too, to make the connection point between the PCB and the wire a little bit stronger. But yeah, they're a little bit shorter. I'm 99.9% sure they are 46 millimeters or 4.6 centimeters. The first order I did from him, he actually hand wrote them in on all of them. But now that I'm getting like 30, 40, 50, 60 at a time, he's not doing that anymore. Ramdonko says, does a Boxer have a mode bay? I have no idea. I don't have a Boxer. Although Sean Gliff right after you says, yes, Boxer has a module bay. Ramdonko says, scared of the ELRS step when I have to. I'm not sure what that means. Uriel says, I 3D printed some stick ends. That's super cool. YouTube did the thing again. Scrolled me to the bottom. Scrolling back up to try to find my place. Crom says, CiottiFPV equals child. Yeah. Gotta stay youthful, man. Denzel the Terrible says, there goes the family rating. Christopher Blackledge says, long time no see. Hello, everybody in CiottiFPV. Hope you're all well. Good to see you, brother. Dronesen says, I'm sitting here eating Oreo-flavored Oreos. Why? Yes! How many people ran out and bought Oreo-flavored Oreos? When I talked about it on that live stream. I got a life hack for you, friends. Here's your actual life hack for the day. Run out and buy as many of these Oreo-flavored Oreos as you can afford. Because, I'll tell you why in a second. I just had to show you how serious I am about this. Oh, you bastard. I want to eat one right now. But I can't. Alright, here's the deal with Oreo-flavored Oreos. I've been waiting 4 to 5 years for them to come back out. I got like one bag of them, maybe 2 bags of them, 4 or 5 years ago when they were last available. And so here's the deal. They're not as good as regular Oreos. They're a little bit too sweet. But you eat one of them and it's unbelievable. When you eat the second one, it's still pretty good. the third one, the fourth one, it's like, it's too sweet. And so you stop eating them. That's the trick. With Oreo flavored Oreos, you eat one and then you stop. And then you don't, and then you're not that fat slob that eats 44 Oreos in a row every night until the family size thing is gone and you feel like shit for the next 6 to 8 years, and then they cut your legs off. I'm telling you, man, Oreo flavored Oreos, go get as many as you can. There's no telling how long they'll sell these goddamn things. And apparently when they stop selling them for 4 to 5 years. So go get a bunch and vacuum seal them bitches and eat one at a time, one per night. Some nights you'll forget about it, and then you'll skip a night, and you'll get a little bit of sugar, and it won't make you feel like shit mentally or physically, and then you won't get the diabetes, and your life will be better. There you go. Who can back me up on the fact that one single Oreo flavored Oreo is the way to go? Kyle Saunders says, first time catching you live. Appreciate what you do, man. I've learned a ton. Air 65 battery pigtail broke at the solder joint for the blue wire. New wire or reuse the factory blue? At the solder joint. Which solder joint? The one on the AIO or the one at the connector? Actually, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Wires that get... Battery wires are the perfect example of this. Battery wires get yanked, they get unplugged, they get replugged. It fits too tight sometimes, so you like really yank on it. Wires that get cycled like that and get moved constantly, little by little, each tiny little internal strand will break. And so wires that are in a wear area, a wear spot or whatever, when they break, completely replace them. Take that chance to replace that entire wire, because somewhere else in the length of that wire there are broken strands, and eventually it'll break there. I actually, on the bench right now is my main CiottiWhoop. I've been using this on professional gigs 2 to 5 or 6 a month, every month for almost 4 years now. And I am very gentle with this thing, and I take really good care of it. And the negative battery lead finally broke, and it broke all the way deep down inside the wire here. And this is a perfect example. If I had fixed this, if this had broken up here at the XT60 joint, and then I had fixed it, which I don't think I have, it could have then broken farther down, right? So like when a wear wire lets go, replace the whole damn thing. Put a completely fresh wire on there. And then you're back at 100%, right? If you half-ass it and you just fix that wire, you fix the main wear point, but somewhere else, right? A lot of times at the other side where the connect, in this case, like so at the ESC, right? This broke at the connector. At the ESC, that's had a bunch of movement. So it's probably at like 60% strength at the ESC. So fuck that, replace the whole thing, and now both sides of the wire are going to be at full strength, and you'll get the maximum amount of time before that wire lets go again. The battery leads are the main wear items on pretty much all FPV rigs, and they actually should be something that like they should be like scheduled maintenance. Like every year, we should be changing out that. If you want to have a rig that lasts forever, and you're going to do one thing a year that takes 20 whole minutes, replacing battery leads would be the very first thing. That would be the top of the list. If I was going to make like a list of wear items that you would want to do, with any kind of frequency, that would be at the top of the list, is battery leads. Because, yeah, I mean, it just, every once in a while, it's going to get pulled. And when you pull it a little bit too hard, it's going to break at least one of those tiny little inner strands. So yeah, replace the whole thing. Dronzen says, I scrapped the Walksnail 75-2S build to do an 04 75-2S build. Nice. Ramdango says, I have a fake Wella. It cost me 20 pounds 5 years ago. Comes with nibs, burns my fingers, equals okay. CiottiFPV and all. Is that a Weller? like what my soldering iron is. Level 1 Drone says, LOL at the face. Yeah, I've seen that reaction before, so when I fly for fun, hit 1,000, but for others, I slow it down. Cool. Nice. All right, I'm almost caught up on chat, and then we'll dive back into rates, which is the main topic of tonight's stream. Oh my god, it's 8:40 already. Sergio says, how can analog cameras improve? They can't. Cheatonian says, regarding the discontinued beta FPV, I'm serious, they can't. Discontinued beta FPV 12 amp V3, the version 2.2 is only 0.08 heavier despite the OSD chip. And if you factor in that you solder instead of using DJI plug, it's lighter and for sale. Yeah, when on the live stream that I realized that V3 was discontinued, which I have since confirmed with beta FPV, I mentioned that like the V2.2 is probably totally fine. I've not personally used it, but yeah, it should be completely fine. I'm gonna buy one at some point, and I've heard good things about it. So, in my opinion, the beta FPV 12 amp version 2.2 AIO is the best option for an HD 75mm 2S build. The main thing that I like about it is that just like the version 3, they use this kind of annoying JST plug on top that you hook up to a little USB-C dongle, which eliminates the need for a USB port on the bottom. And that allows you to slam the AIO farther down. It also allows you to use the Module 7 V4 frame with the top battery supports removed. And yeah, that's pretty slick. So my V3 is still fine, so I'm going to keep using it. But yeah, there you go. I did a live stream where we dove into all of the 2S AIOs, and I gave you my thoughts on all of them. So if you want more info, that's the stream for you. It was about a week and a half ago. It was like 2 days after the 04 officially released. Northern Tier says, supposedly HD0 has a new set of goggles at Whooptopia out in Phoenix. People were checking them out. Very cool. Hopefully they're a little bit smaller. Greg Meyer says, I looked for Oreo-flavored Oreos, not here that I noticed. I don't even think he's in here tonight. I haven't seen him in here tonight. I looked in Publix. They didn't have them in Publix. I bought those 5 packs from Kroger. So if you have a Kroger near you, maybe that's where you got to go to find them. Hold on, this is important. Maybe they're on their website. This is it. Loaded Oreos. Hold on. Here we go. There they are. I don't suggest you buy anything from Amazon, but it's a bit much. They're not with $12.90. It's good that they're in stock though. I've had them on my wish list forever and they've been out of stock, but it's incredible to see them back in stock again. Look, Kroger's coming up, so maybe it's a Kroger only. Oh, that's not them. Don't get those. That's horrifying. Show me them on your website, you jerks. There you go. So you can buy them on. Are you fucking kidding me? You can get them on their website. A 2-pack for $5.30. Now you're talking. Here you go. Shop retailers. There it is. Oh, it's Kroger only. What is this? Carrot though. Instacart. What is this bullshit? Don't. It's Kroger only. What a bunch of Nazis. I guess you can get them on their website though. I'm telling you guys, this shit's life changing. It's not life changing. Sergio, the reason I can confidently say that analog cameras can't be improved is that in FPV, we've been using analog cameras for like 12 years now, and there's been like 7,000 different revisions of FPV cameras, FPV analog cameras, 1,200 TV lines, 800 TV lines, like all kinds of shit. so many companies have thrown so much effort into analog cameras that by now, if there was a way to actually legitimately improve them, we would have it. There have been improvements to them, and like the current generation of analog cameras are the best that we've got. But if you look at like the analog cameras over the last like 4 years, they haven't improved. They've changed colors and they've made more bold claims and all kinds of bullshit, but the actual quality through the camera into the goggles has not changed. They are incredibly good. Like the analog cameras that we have today are really, really, really good, but they're just not going to get better. Like the camera itself is so much better than the transmission, that like this is it. This is where we're at. So yeah, like the analog cameras that we have now are as good as it's going to get. Red Plump says, got my first Whoop Meteor 75 Pro for my outdoor indoor Whoop. It's very windy in the UK. Currently wind speed is safe for 75 millimeter. Tiny Whoops will always get kicked around by the wind. The 75 Pro is going to do as good as any with dealing with the wind. So yeah, you'll be all right. I wouldn't fly a 75 Pro inside though. A 65 millimeter rig is going to be way better inside the house. Fair, but yeah, depends on how much breakable stuff you have. Louis says, we fixed the VTX table and the pit mode fix worked, Rush VTX, but after every power cycle, it goes back into race mode. Any ideas? None whatsoever. Contact Rush. Message them on Facebook, message them on Instagram, email them, hit them in as many different places as you can. They will reply back to you somewhere, and hopefully they'll be able to help you out. That's a weird problem. Craig Meyer says, I looked for Oreo flavored Oreos, not here. I already read that one. Cheetonian says, genius move by Oreo, repurposing the defective regular Oreos from the assembly line by mushing them together and making a filling for different Oreo. Some designer got a promotion for sure. I wonder if it's taken them... I wonder if they come out with these, they make as many as they can from the recycled broken bits, and then when they run out, that's what takes 4 years. I wonder if inside of those Oreos is 4 years worth of defects from the manufacturing line. Craig Myers says, so fly 6 batteries and eat 1 Oreo. There it is. You fly your 6 batteries a day, and then your Oreo flavored Oreo is your treat. Red Plum says, oh, we got that. Dave S says, Pyrodrone still has 2G4s if anybody's looking for one. Weebleed has tons of them as well. Ramdongo says, yep, fake Wella equals dark blue. CiottiFPV equals works enough. I have no idea what that means. James Thomas says, so I'm not a pro and don't post because I suck. Don't say that. I just don't want to buy into the DJI bubble sphere. Am I crazy for still wanting to go walk snail, or should I really swallow it and go DJI? The walk snail light VTX is impossibly fragile. And so if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for the super lightweight VTX, it's pretty insane to go with the walk snail light over the DJI 04. If you're talking about the heavier stuff, I've not heard anywhere near as big of a quality control issue with the bigger VTXs from Walksnail. But the quality control of DJI stuff is ridiculous. So like across the board, DJI stuff is going to be significantly more durable than Walksnail. How much money do you have is kind of where it's going to come down to for me. I am a cheap bastard, but the DJI stuff is so much more durable that paying more for it ends up costing a lot less money in the long run. So if you have enough money to take a stand against DJI, although from like the actual, from the people that actually know what they're talking about, it certainly doesn't seem like DJI is selling any of our information or has any interest in our information. Like, sure, they're a Chinese company, but not all Chinese companies are going to break down your door and stab your family. And so it feels like a lot of the DJI hate is kind of unwarranted. I could totally be wrong about that. But that's the feeling that I get talking to people that like really get to see what's going on behind the scenes. And again, I could totally be wrong. They could totally be wrong. But yeah, I don't know. The DJI hatred is a bit much, in my opinion. But you know, every single one of you is more than welcome to hate whoever you want to hate. For me, it's awful hard for me to spend money on Walksnail over DJI because it's not that much cheaper, and DJI stuff is just bomb-proof, and it's better. Like it works better, it's easier to use, and it's bomb-proof. And I don't have enough money to ignore that, so that's kind of where it's at for me. If that makes you think that I'm buying into an evil company, that sucks. But Walksnail is really good. Don't get me wrong. It's really, really, really good. But the Walksnail Lite is their main product that I'm interested in, and the quality control is absolutely atrocious. And so that right there makes me really like, okay, give me anything to get me away from this. And the 04 Lite is that. And so there's a good chance that I might bail on all my Walksnail stuff because, with like the heavier stuff, I would rather run an old school Vista, which I have a whole bunch of, and they're totally bomb-proof. And then the lightweight stuff, the 04 Lite, is almost certainly going to be miles more durable. So, yeah. I would love to be all in on Walksnail. I think they're doing something really good. I love how many options that we have. I love that we can mix and match. But DJI is a powerhouse. Exiled FPV says, my local Walmart has the loaded Oreos. There we go. Now we're talking. Dronesen says, I got my Oreos at Aldi's. I wonder if they're owned by Kroger. Might be. Somebody said raw Oreos. Ram Dungo says raw Oreos 4%. What is 4%? Fly High says Aldi's is not owned by Kroger, just Aldi and Trader Joe's. Denzel the Terrible says you can buy a box of 150 clay skeet pigeons for less than $20. Probably tastier than those Oreos. Not true. Eagle FPV says, just wanted to thank you for doing this stream tonight. I literally just switched to actual rates before the stream, and I'm feeling locked in. Also, hybrid pinch is best, and I'm a thumber. You're certainly welcome. We're going to talk about rates again in a second. I just got to get caught up on the chat. Cronut says, what's up? And then McMucus says, today I started up 4 new motors to my AIO, 3 props on there. Switch motors are reversed in the motors tab, and all motors spun the right direction. What are the odds of that? It is such a nice little bonus when you put motors on and they spin the right direction. It's such like a... feels good. All right, so we talked about actual rates, Betaflight rates. The other big thing that I wanted to hit on is some of the other stuff in the rates tab, and then I want to fly a little bit and move the rates around to show you how it affects the quad's actual motion in flight. Let's come back in here. So the things that nobody really talks about in the rates tab are TPA, throttle limit, throttle mid, Throttle Expo, that kind of stuff. Exiled FPV with a $2 super chat. He says, for the helpful ripping indoors stream. You're certainly welcome, brother. Thank you for the support. TPA is kind of PID related. The TPA should probably be in the PIDs tab, but whatever. TPA is going to back off how aggressive the PIDs are from up at the top of the throttle. So this is the multiplier. The actual TPA is the multiplier, and then the breakpoint is where it starts. So basically 1350, for some strange reason, just like in the motors tab, the range is not from 0 to 100 or 0 to 1,000. The range is from 1,000 to 2,000. I don't know why. 1350 means that the TPA is going to start affecting the PIDs at 35% throttle. And then this actual TPA value is how much of a reduction in the PIDs you're going to get all the way up top. So at 35% throttle, the PIDs are going to start to roll off. And then by 100% throttle, your PID gains are going to be at 65% of the total value. That's how TPA works. The default TPA values that Betaflight has are damn near perfect, and you should almost never need to adjust them. So that's all I'm going to really talk about with TPA. But that's how it works. If you really dive into PID tuning, you're going to learn about this, and you're going to figure it out, and you're not going to need me to tell you about it. But that's basically it. Leave TPA alone unless you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, you're going to know what to do with TPA. Throttle limit is a hard cutoff. If I set this at 90%, when I go full throttle on my transmitter, it'll actually only give me 90% throttle. If you have this set to off, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, okay. So if you're going to use this throttle limit, what you want to use is scale 100% of the time. This way, when you go to 100% on the throttle lever, it's only going to give you 90% throttle. If you turn this off at 100% throttle and 99% throttle and 91% throttle and 95% throttle, it's going to give you 90. So you're gonna waste the top of your throttle stick travel. I don't really think that you should use the throttle limit in here. Bardwell has a video on how to use your pots, your little dials on the transmitter. If you're going to use a throttle limit, you might as well get use out of one of those damn things. Joshua Bardwell throttle limit dial. It might be this one. It's an old ass video. Let me change dial to knob. Here it is. This is the one. Oh, no. Here. Oh, Troncat did one. Oh, okay. Okay. There you go. There's a link to the Troncat video. I am pretty sure that this is the link that you want to the... I think this is the correct... One of those two will be correct. Basically, if you're going to use a throttle limit like that, get use out of one of the things on your transmitter that is either like a knob or a slider that we never use for anything. And then, if you want throttle, if you want an actual hard throttle limit, you turn the fucking knob. And it's awesome. And then you feel good because you're actually using these knobs that you never use. If you want to do something in Betaflight, what you should be doing is motor limiting. Motor output limiting. Motor output limiting is going to limit the PIDs as well as the throttle. And like the only real reason for you to use a throttle limit is if you have too much power. And if you have too much power, you don't want the PIDs to have access to all that power either. So if you want a quick throttle limit, set it up on your knob. You'll feel better about using your knobs. If you put motors that are too high of a kV on for the voltage that you're running, you want to use the motor output limit because you don't want your PID gains to have access to enough power that they can blow up your ESC. And so in most cases, you're going to use the throttle output limit, but having your knob set up is pretty slick. You'll feel better about yourself that you don't have that fucking knob that you've never used and you never will use. And then the throttle mid and the throttle expo, which I just cannot sum up quickly. If you want to use throttle expo, which you should, you need to watch 45 minutes of me really explaining it in depth. Come to my channel, click the little magnifying glass and search for throttle expo. It will completely change your ability to manage your elevation, especially when flying inside the house. It's super important. This is the one you want to watch, but I do hit on it in both of these. But yeah, this is an entire live stream about it, and it makes a huge difference. I've gotten so many messages from people that have taken the time to dive into this and actually understand it and dial it in. And it totally changes, like I said, their ability to manage their altitude. Throttle control is the most difficult part of FPV. It is the thing that you will spend the most time trying to dial in. Properly setting your Throttle Expo can make that so much smoother, and it can make such a difference. I've been flying for over 8 years, and when I don't use Throttle Expo on TinyWhoops, I fly like shit. Flying inside the house, chasing the RC drift cars, trying to change your elevation from like this much to this much off the ground, good fucking luck doing that without Throttle Expo. It is absolute magic, and it is well worth your time to understand it and learn how to dial it. Do it. It's a big part of why my TinyWhoop flying looks the way that it looks and looks as clean as it looks, and it is the only way that I can chase those RC drift cars on their fucking door for like multiple corners, sometimes an entire lap. I run tons of Throttle Expo on those rigs, and I have to. It's the only way to have enough sensitivity on the throttle to go from like 6 millimeters off the ground to 4 millimeters without smacking into the ground and ruining the entire run. So yeah, use Throttle Expo. I use it on everything now. I don't use much of it on the outdoor rigs, but I use at least a little bit of it. It's magic. Kyle Saunders with a $5 super chat. He says, perfect explanation. You're the best. Thank you for the support, my friend. Christopher Blackledge says, talking about motors, I still have that one AO5 build. I have the motors going the right way, and it won't fly. It bounces when armed, and if I switch the props, it sucks down. So pretty much everything is going to bounce when you arm it, because the PID loop doesn't understand what the ground is. So you got to give it some throttle to get it up in the air. You didn't tell me enough to, like, what happens when you actually fly it. That's what I need to know. Atreides says, been flying quick rates on Velociraptor and got better time. You got something there. Yeah, quick rates, actual rates are magic. JMPFPV says, I hooked up 04 Lite to a Pavo Pico and it lasted 30 seconds before the MIPI cable broke off. Endurance is not assured. Damn, that's not great. I've only heard of one failure on an 04 Lite, and it was a canopy that was pushed up against the bind button, and it broke the bind button off on a hard crash. B-Mud Skipper says, put the 04 Pro into a Traxxas TRX4 and stood inside the front door on 1200 milliwatts. Got me a half a mile before I turned around. It was in low light, manual ISO, cranked shutter low. Very cool. Let's do a little bit of flying, talk more about rates. I think I'm caught up. Yep, I'm caught up. I've got 4 batteries charged. This is the last thing we're going to do. Running Water says, how much Throttle Expo do you run on your Ultimate Freestyle build out of curiosity? It depends. Different motors require different amounts of Throttle Expo. Basically, the higher the KV motor, the more Throttle Expo is needed. These 0702, 36,000, 40,000 KV motors, those KVs are absolutely astronomically high. And what happens is we're sacrificing a good power curve and a good throttle curve for just maximum power. And so on some of the 40,000 KV rigs, I'll have, like, it also depends on the propellers, but like I'll run like 30, sometimes 40 points of Throttle Expo, and then you gotta really, when you run that much Throttle Expo, you have to nail that midpoint. I try to only run like 20 or 30 points of the Throttle Expo, because then that midpoint is not as important. But yeah, it really does depend on a bunch of different things. It's also a very personal preference kind of thing. There are a lot of kind of ins and outs. Once you understand it and you start messing around with it, you'll kind of see. Some people still don't like it. I think those people are high on drugs. I think that those people still don't understand it. They haven't taken the time. They weren't paying attention when they were watching that live stream of mine, or they didn't go and experiment with it enough. You have to do all those things. The reason why it's a 40-minute description is that it's complicated, and you really do have to dive in and fully understand it, and then mess around with it, and like, also it depends on like where you're flying, what you're flying. There's so many different things that affect it. You really have to be like motivated to do it. First battery is going to be on my regular Rates as a baseline. This is a pretty beat up tattoo battery. This build is Mobula 6 2024. This is like the ultimate Mobula 6 2024. Light AF frame, 40,000 kV Weebleed motors with the 1.5mm bell swap. Gemfan 1210 props. Micro V antenna. Runcam Nano 3. Old school Mobula 6 canopy. This is the version 1 Mobula 6 2024 board, the direct solder one. Light AF frame, 300 mAh battery. Baseline right here. Standard rates, which are 40 center stick sensitivity, 700 maximum rate, 0.7 expo. 0.7 expo is a lot. Oh, for God's sakes. But it's not that much. And when I look at myself flying with 0.7 expo, wow, I did not see that chair at all. This is the FXT camera that comes with the Mobula 6 2024. It's awful bright. Oh God! Oh God! Oh my God! Oh boy! When I look at my sticks when I'm flying with 0.7 expo, I use all of the stick travel, which is what I want. Oh, there's Teddy Spaghetti. Oh, oh. Get! Hello, little dog. Why so serious? All right, so there's your baseline. Wow, this thing's flying a little weird. It was almost acting like air mode was off a second ago, but it's not. Oh God, why? Oh my God! Oh! Why you gotta hit the ceiling on me, bro? I don't love this camera. This camera is so bright. Oh my God, I cannot get into that fucking dive tunnel. This camera is also having the reds look like ass problem that the HD0 camera has. Something's acting a little funny with this thing. Every once in a while, it's giving me throttle that I'm not asking for. Could be a tune thing. Oh God! Oh, come on now! This does have the 40,000 kV motors on it, so when I go full throttle, it is rocketing me up at the ceiling. All right, so now we're gonna change rates, and I'm gonna do it in the Betaflight to make it a little bit easier for you to see. But you can absolutely do this in the OSD. So, lots of expo. That's what flying with lots of expo looks like. Let's take a bunch of the expo out, and you'll definitely see a difference in the flight footage. Let's come all the way down to 40. So watch the red line. Watch the red line here. Ready? So we're going to come down to 40. See how much more aggressive that is? So when I go, what is this on roll? When I go half stick, it's going to give me a lot more actual rotation. So it's going to make the middle of the stick travel more aggressive. Down here in the center of the stick travel, it's pretty much the same. All the way up top, it's exactly the same. But in the middle of the stick travel, let's see if I can line these two up. I'm going to try to put the exact same amount of roll as pitch. And on the left there, you can look at the degrees per second. See it? So in the middle of the stick travel here, I'm going to get 115 degrees of roll, but only 75 of pitch. I'm going to make this change to all three. In my opinion, you always want to match these three up. Some people say that you want to do different shit on yaw. I disagree. So from 70 to 40, which doesn't sound like that much of a change, but boy, you are about to see something. First and foremost, I'm going to have a hard time flying this because I've flown these similar rates for many, many, many years. So fair warning, I'm not going to be flying as good, but I think that you'll be able to see a difference other than me just crashing more. And I'm going to crash more. Hold on, let me just try to get upstairs. You can already see the difference. See how all of these little corrections are much more exaggerated? Yes, I would get used to this. But just by nature of the fact that the center of the stick travel is more aggressive, those corrections that you make are going to be more noticeable. You see the other difference? The other difference is that everything is rotating faster. When I'm in the middle of the stick travel, I'm flying around with much more rotation. See it? And I'm over-rotating and then I'm having to correct. This is what less expo looks like. So you're going to do one of two things to adjust. You're either going to use less of the stick travel, which is stupid, because then you're just making flying harder on yourself, or you're just going to rotate more. You're just going to spend more time rotating like this, and you're going to have this much more chaotic, in my opinion, harder to watch flight style, where you're just rotating a lot more. Because when you're in the middle of the stick travel, there's more rotation. And so, like, flying inside is going to get a lot harder. That's the antenna on the left side of the screen there. Flying inside is going to be a lot harder because it's really difficult to calm things down. When you're in here, the subtlety, you're doing a lot of work with, like, really subtle stick movements to try to just gently move around, right? Like the distances are all super compressed inside the house. And so having less expo to me is not the answer. Now we're going to add more expo. Expo, I'm first doing expo because it has the most effect on the way that you fly. You use the middle of the stick travel the most if you're doing things right. And so now we're going to go up to 0.9. All right, so from 0.7 down to 0.4. Now we're going all the way up to 0.9. And now look at this. Look at how flat the middle is. We got to go all the way on the stick travel here to get the actual acceleration. I don't recommend you ever do expo this high. This is a bit much. But I want this to be drastic enough for you guys to kind of see it. Why is this on PID profile 2? Whatever. Oh, balls. Did I not save that? I don't think I saved that. I did! Look at me! Alright, ready? FlyFPV says, have you tried race mode on 04 Pro? I haven't tried 04 Pro yet. I haven't had goggles. But goggles showed up, I think yesterday, And so I will try 04 Pro as soon as I can. What are your thoughts on using race mode 40 versus 60? Race mode 1240 gives me more range. From what I've seen, the range on race mode is pretty awful. So I would use whatever has better range. But I mean, that's a pretty... I think that's going to change for everybody. And I mean, that could change like per battery. You know, you're flying a spot where you need more range. You got it. It's cool that you can actually do that. I hadn't seen anybody talking about that yet. The more options, the better. All right, there's me fixing that little antenna. All right, so here's tons of Expo. What are you hitting on? What's happening? What the fuck? This thing is acting all kinds of weird. What is that noise? Why is it rattling so bad? Whatever. Send it, bro! Full send! Alright, so... Ooh! Okay, okay, this is way harder to get used to. Hold on. So, in the middle of the stick travel, not a whole lot is happening. And so I'm having to... See how smooth this is? I'm having to really move the stick around. But, like, look at that smoothness, man. You know, like, it just... It makes you really look like you know what you're doing. Until you start ramming into shit. And so let's go back upstairs. Oh my god, I gotta really push the sticks around. You can still get your 700 degrees a second, in my case. You can still do like very aggressive moves like that, right? You can still do all the things, because at the end of the stick travel, you still have a ton of... you still have the same degrees per second. But in the middle of the stick travel, it's all kinds of chilled out. And so what it kind of does, what's interesting about what it does is that it makes you slide out farther. Like, for example, I put in the stick the amount that I think I need, and then it doesn't give me the same amount. So I end up like scraping the walls, which actually looks cooler, right? Like being in close proximity to stuff looks really cool. And so that's one of the things that increasing latency is going to do, is it's going to make you like kind of fly the extremes. We kind of get used to flying like in the middle of the pathway. Come on. We get used to like keeping a safe distance, right? Like, oh, I'm close enough to the wall. Oh, I'm close enough to the... Hold on. I'm close enough to the stairs. You fly right down the middle. That doesn't look as good as when you're like all up on the wall or all up on the hallway or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so... Oh, no. 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 Be right back. I don't remember what I was saying. But yeah. Run more Expo. The walk of shame indeed. Run more Expo. It's really cool. This is a bit much. This is a bit much. But if you're already at like 60 or 70, fuck it, do it. Because it really... The other thing it does is it really makes you understand what it does, right? Like when you drastically change one of the rates, it's going to become super obvious the effect that that's going to have. Cool. All right, now we're going to hit... Well, I mean, the maximum rotation We don't need to hit that. You know what that is. You go to the end of the stick, and it rotates at that number of degrees per second. The end. I'm going to go back to my regular amount of expo, and we're going to go up and down on the center stick sensitivity. But expo is the main thing. If you want to keep it super simple, just change your expo. That is the thing that does the absolute most to the way that you fly, because you should be using the center of the stick travel the most. You should not always be at the center. You should not always be at the outside. You should be at the middle of the stick travels for the majority of the time. So let's zoom in a little bit and we'll see. I'm going to move this until it has a serious effect. So this is 40. It's really hard to see because it's buried all down in here, but let's go up first. Okay, and so look, I told you that that there is some bleed over between these. The bleed over is not nearly as bad as in Betaflight, but if I really ramp this center sensitivity up, it's going to affect the expo. I could then increase expo to bring that back down. You see that? But it's still going to have an effect all in here. It's just, you know, it's never going to make it do this. It's never going to make it do that, because that would feel absolutely insane. You would never want that, right? And so, hold on. I think 170 is a bit much. Let's move it from 40 up to 100. Yeah, that'll be very noticeable. Problem is going to be, that's a really big change. Let's do this. I am going to increase the expo, because I want to just show the center stick sensitivity. All right, so I'm going to go up to 100, and then I crank the expo up to 80. That looks like that's the best mix to really show you the difference that center stick sensitivity makes. All right, so we've basically only increased the center stick now. Make sense? And now, hopefully, you'll be able to see the difference with just that. So this is like the normal amount of expo that I like. So the middle of the stick travel should be totally normal. But watch what happens with the small adjustments in the middle. See it? Every single little movement that I make in the center, you're able to kind of detect, right? And it looks like I'm making little mistakes. So yeah, once I start whipping this thing around, okay, it looks like my normal flying, right? Like once I start boogieing and I get out of the center, it's just regular, and it feels like that too. It feels totally normal once I'm in the middle of the stick travel because of those adjustments, because I added the expo. But when I slow down, and I start flying more gently, you can see every little movement that I make. And I'm making these little corrections on purpose. I'm making these little corrections so that I don't hit that, so that I come close but I don't hit it. And so like low center stick sensitivity, what it does is it takes out the ability to see these little tiny changes that I'm making. I am like very, and I think you should be too, you should be very active on the sticks. You should always be making little adjustments. What you can do with your rates is set the rates up so that those little adjustments don't come through as little mistakes. See all those little wobbles and bobbles that are in there? Usually you don't see me making those, right? I'm making them. I'm always moving the sticks around. I never have it exactly centered. But I run that nice low center stick sensitivity and it covers them up. And I'm pretty good at hiding them. So you could kind of say that you're your slow speed on center flying is controlled by the stick, the center stick sensitivity. Right? When you're flying right down the middle, when you're relatively flat, when you're flying slowly, that's when you're using the center of the stick travel, and that's where the center stick sensitivity will have the most effect. But then when you pick up speed and you start doing stuff, that's when the Expo is going to have the biggest effect. And so now we're going to go the other way. We're going to go all the way down on the center stick sensitivity to 10. And I'm not going to change the Expo on this one. I'm going to go back to my regular amount of Expo, and I'll show you why. You'll see. Like, the graphs are not going to drastically be all over the place. There we go. And so we're going to come in here, rate profile, and then we're going to go all the way down to 10. But watch this. So initially, when we go to 10, it's going to change this a lot, but watch, ready? When I go back to 70, that's pretty much where I usually am, right? Usually, I'm at 40. Well, there is actually it's a bigger difference there than I thought. Here, let me set these other ones to 40 so you can really see it. 0.7, 40.7. Yeah, see, but it's not much. Right? It's just there. It's off by a little bit, but it's really not nearly as much. So, yeah, let's just turn this down to 10. And well, nah. You know what? Let's mirror it. We're gonna mirror it up to 40. What do I need to do to get this to match that? What am I adjusting right now? The green. So how do I get the green to match the what's roll red? Yeah, I want to get green right on top of red. So there we go, 67. So 10.67. All right, so again, this is just to take the Expo out of the equation. My Expo is exactly the same now. It's on the same arc there, but the center stick sensitivity is drastically different here. You can see the amount of Throttle Expo I have is 0.40. These are 40,000 kV motors. I run a lot of Throttle Expo on these crazy high kV motors to get them tamed so that I can still have good elevation control. BT 2.0, Craig. The runtime is not very much on this rig because there's something weird going on with the PIDs. So now I can be just as aggressive on the roll, but you can't see it. I'm just bouncing the roll stick back and forth. I'm giving it a little bit more. I'm really getting into Expo here on purpose. But if you look, everything will be super smooth, especially when I change directions, when I go from left to right. Left, right, left, right. Let me do it up here. Probably really be able to see it up here. Ready? So I'm going to go roll right, roll left, roll right, roll left, roll right, roll left. See how smooth that is? See how butter smooth that is? There's no like, oh, I can't even get it to have that notch. I'm deflecting the shit out of the stick to get it to do that. It's just absolute, it's an absolute butter factory. Now again, once I get into moving quicker, I'm into the Expo. And I can have my cake and eat it too. When I'm going faster, I can move around for the FPV pilots. And then for the normies, I can slow it down and fly super cinematic and super... Oy. What the hell's happening? Oh god, I'm full throttle and it's not taking off. What are you doing, little quad? Left front motor is having an issue. See if I can get it to behave. Just trying to get it to the stairs. I want to try to hit it on something. Come on. Come on, get to the stairs so I can throw you off. Come on, little guy. You can do this. Maggie's going up to get it. God, she is the best. It's not going to fly, though. Yeah, okay. I'm going to have to go get it. I'll be right back. It's all right, baby. It's broken. It's broken. Thank you. He does, too. Yep. If he could only fix them. Big old clump. Oh, wait, no, that's a motor lead wire that popped off. So, yet again, the direct soldered rig has let me down. And one of the motor wires has broken off. This is why I don't like the direct soldered rigs. That's a shame. Could you guys see it, though? You guys could see it. You could see the difference. I gotta put this back because I'm not gonna fix it right now, and I will totally forget, and then I will be very confused as to why this is flying so weird. You guys could see it though, right? See the difference? Try it for yourself. It's very fun. I might actually revisit my rates and play around a little bit because that felt kind of good. Having the center sensitivity, you don't want it to be too low, but that was interesting. I'm gonna revisit that for sure. Craig Meyer, PayPal $25 for such a great explanation. Thank you so much, homie. Usually I have my email up, but I did not have my email up today. Great explanations. Thank you, he says. Thank you, Craig. Very, very cool of you, man. Oh, boy. In the middle of a yawn, it shits its pants. Perfect. Hold on. Let's get this back up. That's what she said. Oh, come on. Stop being a jerk. We're going to fly one more battery, but on a different rig with regular rates. There we go. Man, yeah, the whole direct soldered motor thing can go to hell forever. It's just, it is consistently been the least durable setup. And it's been like multiple rigs, multiple builds. It's just silly, man. It's just silly. You don't want that in your life. You want motor plugs. The extra durability is well worth the... Oh my god, the transmitter's going dead. We're not going to fly another battery. Transmitter's dead. Sorry! Just pretend like I flew a battery and I was like on rails and everything was great. Thanks for hanging, friends. Wait, no, hold on. Craig Meyer says, make sure video is on. Got it. Craig Meyer says, post that last mid equals 10. Oh, did I, Oh, I Stevie Wondered it. Oh, you dirty rat bastard. All right, hold on. I will change the transmitter battery, and then I'll hook up a different rig. I'm not going to leave this unfinished. We're going to finish strong, goddammit. Hold on. I can't believe I Stevie Wondered it. What an asshole. Oy vey. I was very careful to push the buttons on the Stream Deck too. There was a moment where I was like, I'm gonna fucking Stevie, because I was like, I'm gonna be switching back and forth and back and forth. There's no chance that I don't Stevie Wonder this shit at some point. And I was right. All right, so hold on. Here we go. Pin tuning! So, I mean, this is a different rig, but We'll be all right. We're going to go down to 10. What if I Stevie Wonder it again? 10 and then 67. 10, 67, 10, 67. Okay. Save it. I'm going to go to the VRX right now. Oh, that's right. It runs the VTX when the Bing Bong's on. When it's plugged into USB, rather. Fresh battery. Last battery of the live stream. Through the rails on the stairs, I can get it, but it's not a skill-based move. It's just a luck-based move. They're so close together that it's just point it and knife edge it, and sometimes it goes through, sometimes it doesn't. I try not to do those moves. I try to stick with moves that are at least a little bit skill-based. Just because, yeah, I don't know. Just because. This is a 2G4 AIO'd build. Micro V antenna, Mobula 6 canopy, Runcam Nano 3. Light AF frame. 32,000 kV 0702s with the HQ ultralight tri-blades. So it flies pretty different. The hover point is higher. It doesn't have quite as much power. It's got more grip. It's a little bit heavier though. But the changes in the rates you'll still be able to notice. So this is where I could really notice it. If I'm looking at here, I'm going to move the stick left and right on the roll axis a little bit. And you can't even see it. This is why the 10 center stick sensitivity is a little bit low. Like, I'm moving the stick a good amount, and like nothing's coming through. Now I'm going to move it a bunch. Watch how gentle this is. I'm moving it like a lot. Almost half the way. See how gentle that is? See how buttery smooth that is? That's what you get from low center stick sensitivity. And then like everything I do, see, so that's it getting me into trouble. I put the stick where I thought it would turn. But just like, look how smooth the crashes are. The problem I'm having right now is I'm not used to this. If I got used to this, there would be more smoothness. Everything becomes super purposeful and like you're doing everything on purpose. But you can still do that stuff. You can still hammer the stick all the way to the end, all the way to the plastic. Oh! And get a good amount of all the same maximum rotation. But then in the middle, everything chills out. And when you specifically fly slow, everything calms down. There you go. You asked for it and you got it. I got lucky. Here, I'll do it again. And I'll probably miss. Hey! Maybe I'm getting better. Well, let's see. Nope. But yeah, with the really low center stick sensitivity, you can really just bash into all the walls. You can really rock back and forth, left to right, in total, and front back, with like Mavic levels of chill. The problem with doing that is it adds so much delay to your flying that you have to like pre-think everything, and you end up doing a lot of that stuff. That's where like I settled on my rates where like they're reactive enough for me to catch shit before I crash, but I still do have to like be very early on stuff. And so like I have to think ahead. But it's not, I don't have to think so, see that? See how, like, I kept pushing more and more and more, but it wasn't, I wasn't getting enough out of it. That's very specific for every single person. And I could absolutely get used to this. But I don't know. Having anything maxed all the way out, I try to stay away from like maxing anything all the way out. You know what I mean? And this is the center sensitivity. Absolutely max. That hit myself in the goggles. That was fun. Perfect timing. The battery's done. So yeah, there you go. That's the. Whew. Yeah, the stick movements also don't matter. I will never point a camera at my sticks. It doesn't matter. Do it for yourself and feel it through your own sticks. That's what matters. You know, when I go left, I move the sticks left. When I go right, I move the sticks right. You want to use the maximum possible stick travel. That's it. The stick cam thing, it doesn't help anything. It all comes through with the way that the quad moves, and your rates are different from who you're watching. And so the whole stick cam thing it's pretty silly. You're not gonna learn anything from the stick cam. Here, I'll help you. Here, if you think you're learning something from the stick cam, let me debunk it. Ready? If when they go like that, it's gonna go like that. All right, and then when they go like that, it's gonna go like that. And then ready, stick cam. Ready? Okay, cool. Got it. And then that. Right, got it. Ready? And then we're gonna go. And then and there you go. That's it. That's your stick cam. Now you know. Everybody that does stick cam, if you see him. Sorry to be a dick, but it's true. It's true. The stick cam does absolutely nothing, and it infuriates me that that it's become like the standard, because you're not learning anything that you can't learn from just watching what the camera does. Camera looks down, pitch forward. Camera looks up, pitch back. Right. If the camera's doing a bunch of stuff, run it at 25% speed, and if you see it going at a diagonal, that's pitch and roll. Right. If you see it pitching back but rotating, that's pitch and yaw. There's nothing you can't figure out by just watching it like one more time real quick. And you can't look down at the stick cam and look up at the footage at the same time. You have to rewind anyway. So yeah, just do that. It'll be good. Sean Glyph says, if you say that it's worth the wait to not have soldered motors, I believe I was going to anguish about this. Now I can just blame you if it sucks. Yeah, I mean, the weight difference is real. Don't get me wrong. But the durability difference is a bigger deal for me. Maybe not for you. That's why, you know, I try not to ever say that, like, this is the best or that's the best. But, yeah, working on these things less, and that's important for me. If you never crash, yeah, direct solder them, because you're going to save weight, and if you never crash, they're never going to break. Results of the poll are 64% of you pinch the nipples, 36% of you thumb the butt. Atreides says, it's really weird. Actual 110-633-00 feels great, but on my calculator it does not make Betaflight feel the same, which is my normal is Betaflight 105.65.00. The calculators are not the best. So yeah, don't blame the calculators. Dial these rates in for yourself. If you're switching from Betaflight to actual rates, mess around. Run the center stick sensitivity high, run it low, run the expo high, run it low, reset your rates. Take this as an opportunity to redial in your rates. DVR a bunch of your flying, watch it back. See if you like it. That's a big thing that, like, nobody does. When you're flying, you're not watching. You're actively flying, and you're actively avoiding stuff. And a lot of times when you go and you watch that back, you're going to be like, whoa, this is a lot. And the biggest thing when you watch your flight footage back is you're going to see all of these little corrections. When you add extra expo or drop your center stick sensitivity down, like I was showing you, you're going to see a lot of those corrections disappear. And that looks like you're a better pilot. And that's kind of cool. If that doesn't matter to you, brah fucking vo. It does matter to me. I want my flight footage to look as good as it possibly can. Call me vain, but, you know, for me it matters because I'm selling that flight footage, right? If it totally doesn't matter to you, that's a great thing. That means that you're in this for fun and not for, like, vanity. If you're in it for vanity, that's okay, too. There's nothing wrong with wanting your flight footage to look really good. If that makes you happy, by all means, you know, do the things that make you happy, right? Lower rates. Try lowering your rates. Just try it. Try adding a bunch of extra expo and dropping your center stick sensitivity down lower than you think. If you put 100 batteries through it, you'll adjust to it, and you'll benefit from the additional throttle, the additional resolution on the sticks. That's the big thing that additional expo and lower center stick sensitivity do for 99% of people. Most people are spending way too much time on the center of the stick travel and not nearly enough out here. And so, but it's going to feel terrible at first. Just like you saw me crashing into all kinds of shit. That's what's going to happen because you need to retrain your brain to push the sticks farther. Once you've done that, once you've retrained your brain to push the sticks further, guess what? You got more resolution now, and you got more sensitivity, and you're going to be able to, instead of making a correction like this, you're going to be able to make a correction like that. And a lot of times when you make these massive corrections, you overcorrect, and then you do this nonsense, right? And so extra expo, lower center stick is going to allow you, literally allow you, because you will have the additional room to move your fingers in. It'll allow you to make a smaller correction, and that will smooth shit out, and you'll stop making double corrections, and you'll just make the one smaller correction, and that looks better and feels better because it prevents the right. If you can just make that one correction and get right back into it, that's gonna feel a lot better than right. So try it. I'm telling you, try it. Moss1 says pincher for life. Craig Meyer says make sure video is on. Uriel says happy weekend. Sean Gliff says no, we got that. Craig Meyer says what a great verb. Stevie Wonder it. Islander FPV says probably a pain to set up, but a webcam showing stick moves be helpful. Craig Meyer says thanks for going back and flying again. Another PayPal for you. This was a $5. Thank you so much, Craig. Z-Bear says, what antennas you're running on your goggles? Menace patch and then a True RC Singularity extra long. Anything True RC makes, though, is like as good as it's going to get. LOL the Kidson, I run the Menace patch because it's purple. I swear to God, I run it because it's purple. LOL the Kidson says, E6000 at the base of the motor wires helps a bit with the direct solder durability. They never break there. They always break at the AIO for me. And it feels says, took me 6 hours to fully build my 75mm 2S04 Lite. Can't wait to fly it. Very cool, brother. Be good friends. I'll see you on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Here's the flight footage from this edit is on my channel. It's called like Florida, I think, just Florida. Patrons, you have an extended edit on the Patreon only YouTube playlist. That is like 10 minutes long, and it has like flight footage before and after color grading, and a bunch of other fun stuff. So yeah, one of the many Patreon only. We even did a Patreon only live stream the other day. Join my Patreon. $3 a month will get you in on all this fun extra stuff. CiottiFPV.com. Support me, and I'll keep doing this forever. I love you. Bye. Not ready. Not ready. I'll play a different edit. Hold on. Here's footage from a gig I did with Little Baby. This will be a quick one. Here you go, friends. I'll see you Sunday. Bye-bye.